time, let me also break down the timeline of Saturday early morning and how frantic calls were made by Partha Chatterjee, all of which were declined, were not picked up. So let's take a look at that timeline for us. Saturday, 1:55 a.m., Partha Chatterjee was arrested by the ED Assistant Director M.K. Mishra. There were calls that were made at that time too. The first call in a series of calls to Mamata Banerjee, but was not taken. Similarly, if we look at the timeline, there were multiple calls made. So almost an hour later, a second call was made to Mamata Banerjee, but was not taken. Saturday, 3:37, almost an hour later after that, the third call was made, once again not picked up. The fourth call was made by Partha Chatterjee to Mamata Banerjee, was also rejected. This was now morning, waking up hours on Saturday, 9:35 a.m. And all of these calls continued to be rejected. But that in itself is not stopping the opposition, the BJP in West Bengal and of course nationally, for raising questions over the connection between Partha and Mamata Banerjee. Let me also go across to my our guest joining us. Manojit Mandal is political analyst who's also joining us. But I go back across to Saugata Mukhopadhyay. Saugata, I had to interrupt you earlier. Please complete. All right. Doesn't look like we're having any luck connecting with Saugata, but we'll go across to him as and when we can. But the details are on your screen, and those are the call records, the calls, the frantic attempts to get through to Mamata Banerjee that have, of course, raised question marks, not just on Partha, but also, of course, on the top leadership of the TMC, which they're not going to be very happy about. The BJP, of course, is linking this as some sort of a link between Partha, who's an accused in this case, and the Chief Minister of West Bengal. Calls in itself may not prove anything, but the fact that he called her 4 times when the arrest was made, and post that, what does it mean? Let me take that question to Manojit Mandal, political analyst and member of the TMC, joining us. I'm also going to be joined by Swapnil Kothari, lawyer, in just a bit. But Manojit, coming to you first up. If this was any other political leader who was called by an accused in a scam of this kind, how would you read these frantic 4 calls that Partha has made to Mamata Banerjee?
We are certainly not privy to these kind of calls. When it was made and to whom it was made. We are just coming to know from the AD sources. So we have no comment to make on this.
You have no comment to make on this, but you are not denying.
We're not sure about this. We are not sure about this.
You are not sure about it. So you are saying that you don't believe or you don't trust at this stage the fact that these calls were made at all?
Certainly not. Why should I? Why should we believe? Because the ED has the ED said specifically that some calls were made. And if the calls were made, it went unanswered. It went unanswered. What is there to comment on this? I really don't understand.
Well, the fact that an accused, political leader is making such calls to the Chief Minister of the state.
I'll tell you.
You don't find that astonishing?
The fact
when
that,
the arrest is happening?
Yes, I'll tell you.
Yeah.
The fact that an accused of 12 cases, including murder and girl trafficking, is the Deputy of the Home Minister. His name is Nitish Pramanik. What does it suggest? Does it mean that the Home Minister himself is indulging in these crimes? These are facts on record. You see this in your affidavit. This person, Nitish Pramanik, and a member of Parliament from North Bengal, he is accused of 12 cases, including murder, girl trafficking, extortion, and drugs, and whatnot. And he is now the Deputy of the Home Minister. So what does it suggest?
You didn't answer my question directly. Let's say
we really, again I say, we cannot ascertain the fact. If one person he has made the call, it went unanswered. What is there to comment on? I really don't understand. Then BJP has to comment on this issue, which is a fact.
No. So you're saying that the fact the calls. Yes, 1 second, Manojit. You're saying that the fact that the calls were unanswered means that there is nothing to say. But the fact that the calls were made obviously do raise a question as well.
I'm again saying that this is not a fact. If these were made, AD is saying this, if these were made, what is there to comment on this? I'm saying if we are not sure about what has actually happened. There's nothing really serious to comment on these particular quote-unquote calls as ED is claiming. What is there to comment? You tell me that, then what the BJP will comment on this issue? This is a fact. That the person is still roaming in, X, Y, Z category secretary who is a criminal. A terrorist is in the parliament.
Okay,
So
Banerjee, I think it would be fair
to
be, careful with the words that you're using. Surely you wouldn't want to invite any trouble on that, and we don't take any responsibility for the comments that you're making on a third party. But Banerjee, let's stick to the subject. Let's stick to the subject.
I'm saying this.
Let's stick to the subject. Do you feel that Partha? Banerjee, let's stick to the subject, please. Do you feel that the connections of Partha Chatterjee to the top leadership of the TMC could, in days to come, be very difficult to maneuver both politically and legally?
The Partha Chatterjee has been part of the Trinamool Congress, the top leadership. What is there to comment? It's a fact. Do we need to comment on this? You tell me now. This is a fact. And mind you, he is still an accused.
Yes, absolutely.
If there is any
but as an
specific
accused, his
evidence,
links to other political leaders, and in a case like this, where there's a scam as far as recruitment is concerned, could he have done it alone or without anybody else's knowledge?
Who is saying that there was a specific scam? Is there any conviction? And let me tell you, BJP is a political party who has made a government with a scammed family. Two of their generations are in jail in Haryana. Father and the son is in jail, and they have made government with the grandson. And they are convicts. And this person is an accused. And he was, of course, with the top leadership. Everyone knows that.
Okay.
Why the BJP is shouting on this? I really don't know. I repeat, they made a government with the accused, not just accused family of convict of two generations.
Yes, but Banerjee, I'm sure you would appreciate the fact that that doesn't absolve anybody else in this case. I'm not talking about the political situation. I'm talking about the fact that the impact of these arrests and this scam probe could be problematic for the TMC. If you believe it's not going to be, that's fine. That's your opinion. But let me also go across. Banerjee, 1 second. Let me also go across to Swapnil Kothari, senior lawyer who's joining us. Swapnil, I'm sure you must have been following, all of the seizures, etc., or the memo, for example, that the ED has presented of those calls made to Mamata Banerjee. I'm not going to ask you a political question, but just give us a sense of the quote-unquote evidence or the seizures that you're seeing in this case, whatever the ED has presented so far. Do you believe that they look like having a very good, strong case?
Well, Shivani, I'm sure, the Enforcement Directorate is doing its job. And why do you want to make phone calls to the Chief Minister? If you're in the clean, just stay put, stay tight, and keep quiet and let the ED do its job if you're absolutely clean and innocent. But then that's not the case, and you've made those phone calls. The ED has made the appropriate seizures. There is obviously a quid pro quo, government positions, etc. for, I'm sure some money has changed hands. And obviously the Enforcement Directorate being in, that means there is money laundering having taken place because there is illegitimate money, and more so the Prevention of Corruption Act. That is exactly where in the PMLA. Those are the two acts under which the ED swoops in. And money laundering is one aspect, but if you're a government official, then obviously the Prevention of Corruption Act immediately applies. And more so when you're a public servant, which is what you are. So several sections of both those acts will start swooping in, and these are predicated offences under the PMLA Act, because this is obviously amounts to criminal breach of trust, theft, etc. And without going into those details, I would really say that the Enforcement Directorate seems to have a strong case here. And hopefully, they follow it up. My only question, Shivani, remains is that usually when the Enforcement Directorate does a lot of homework and starts swooping in and makes arrests, but then fails to follow it up for some reason or the other, is it being compromised? Is it being told to shunt aside cases, refrigerate them? You and I both know how many cases have been refrigerated by several central agencies. And this is what the issue is. That's the reason why people seem to start lampooning and lambasting these enforcement
because they're not really
agencies.
going towards closure in some of the more high-profile cases. But